I guess I see some depressed Phillies fans out there. Just remember that Jesus Christ has risen from the dead, so you got that going for you, okay? Always remember that. And there will come a time where our Philadelphia sports teams will no longer disappoint us, in the second coming of Christ. So, look, Paul's letter to the Romans, probably maybe the second most difficult book of the New Testament to read. Maybe the book of Revelation could be very complicated. This one's right up there. There's a lot you have to know in the context of it. And so I'll begin with this. There's a lot of talk about the law in this book, and that is referring to the law of Moses, which we touched upon in the book of Exodus Bible study that I did last spring. Maybe to put it simply this way, and maybe this could help with some of the confusion. When we talk about the law, there's probably essentially three types of the law. So you have the law, and then underneath it, like three subcategories of different types of law. So there was like the general moral law, which is something that would carry over into the New Testament. Laws regarding with, morality, the Ten Commandments, that type of thing. But then you also had, for another type, liturgical laws that would fall under this category. Laws pertaining to the worship of the old rite. Those don't carry over, okay? And that's kind of where Paul's kind of getting at here in today's first reading. And then you have laws that deal with common, everyday, living stuff, which again, most of it, if not all of it, doesn't carry over. We're not, Jews living in Israel in 1000 BC. That obviously is a different way of living back then than it is today. So in terms of, how to handle debt and those types of things, those don't carry over either. Those become obsolete. Okay, so that's the first thing to keep in mind, is that some things, especially the moral code part of the law, kind of does move over. What St. Paul's referring here to this morning, first of all, is more of a moral exhortation. Okay, so he talked about the effects of baptism in previous readings, baptism, righteousness, okay, that it's the grace of Jesus Christ, his passion, death, and resurrection, where we become righteous now in God's eyes. And so what St. Paul's saying, well, the law couldn't do that, okay? Well, the only thing that the law did was manifest our inability to save ourselves. Like the law just brought that to light, because it's just this endless cycle of sin, then offering a sacrifice. Well, the priest then has to be cleansed. We have to be cleansed. The priest offers sacrifice, but the priest offering a sacrifice is also a sinner. So then you go to, like, for example, the letter to the Hebrews, you see that Christ is the eternal high priest, no sin, no death. He's the one that can offer a sacrifice once and for all, unlike the priests in the Old Testament. And this is what Paul's alluding to, where they just have to keep over and over again, and it's just this endless, depressing cycle of, we have a problem here. We can't break ourselves out of this endless cycle of sin and sacrifice, but a sacrifice that temporarily cleanses but really doesn't, type of thing. Jesus Christ and his priesthood and his passion and death changes all that, okay? We are now no longer under that law that manifests our inability to save ourselves, and we look now at the Spirit and the righteousness of God that truly does cleanse away our sins. And so this whole first reading then is about what? How do you present your bodies? We're going to see St. Paul talk about another way in which we present our bodies later on in this letter. Okay, we'll get to that. I won't get to that today. But we present ourselves as bodies to either sin or to God's righteousness. Okay, to God's will. We present ourselves as slaves, our bodies as slaves to sin or to obedience to God and to his will. Those are our two options. And notice that Paul uses the word body okay, to prevent another teaching that's going on, Gnostics, that would tell us that the body is evil, we need to get rid of it, okay? Notice that for St. Paul, our bodies are part of our salvation history. You know, our bodies are very important, but it's how we use our bodies that matter. You know, do we use our eyes, our ears, our hands, our mouth towards sin? You know, when we sin, we usually are using one of these parts of our bodies, right? Are we going to present that to sin, or are we going to present that to God, to his obedience, to his will, to his righteousness, okay? And so St. Paul's like, okay, so since we're living under this Spirit now, okay, it's not a freedom to sin, but it's a freedom now to what? To live under God's reign. Okay, and that's what he's getting at here in this first reading. More on this, I'll see you guys tomorrow, of what it means to live under the law of grace. May God bless you.